Wildcard series. I know he's not going to be happy with that. So there is so much coming down into this game number 3 where you're talking about this team, whoever wins this game, making it into not only main event for TI, but guaranteed $50,000, if not more so, as we go into the group stage. And, you know, who knows where they actually end up, as both of these teams are playing so fantastically. I can easily see them being able to stand up with the best that Dota 2 has to offer. So starting off with our draft here, MVP Phoenix. We're going to lead off with a Wisp. First pick out from MVP Phoenix. You said it, Blitz. It's their hero.
Yeah, I mean, Mark has said in the past, if we get IO, we just don't lose games. Vega Squadron, they go immediately back to what got them here. They use the Tusk and the Winter Wyvern, both heroes that they used to fantastic effect. Last game, I actually thought Solo in the beginning was a little bit underwhelming on the Enigma.
Yep.
I thought that the idea was good, but MVP actually, it was probably less that he was underwhelming and more that MVP just constantly made rotations to jungle to shut him out. And so I think this is better though, because I saw what Solo did with that Winter Wyvern in Game 1, and I saw what, how do you say it? You said it was
Sayuma.
Sayuma the Slayer.
I am probably mispronouncing that. I am just trying to repeat what Dendi told me.
Told you?
So.
Okay. You might have just been trolling me. You know that, right? That's like at least a 50%.
No, I've already heard that pronunciation before.
Okay.
And so is LD. So is LD.
Okay. But he played such a good Tusk, being able to catch them out consistently. But MVP Phoenix, this is what I love. If you won with the combo before, just go back to it again. You had so much success with it the first time. The main concern for me, though, is that they did pick IO and Bristleback into a Winter Wyvern. Like, that's one of the better combos going up against the IO in general.
Yeah, Winter Wyvern is known to be an incredibly strong counter to any Wisp combination, simply because you put the Winter's Curse straight up on the Wisp, you force the core position that is tethered to that Wisp to actually kill his own ally, and oftentimes that core hero is incredibly dependent on being able to have that assist, the heal, the increased movement speed, everything is usually a necessity for that hero. So a very hard counter being picked up by Vega Squadron, and then the Tusk is pretty good as well, right? Like the direct damage Walrus Punch, being able to snowball straight to the Wisp as well. Like, that's just another hero that's able to adapt to the Wisp playstyle.
Yeah, I think Tusk in general is just one of those heroes that is incredibly strong for pretty much his entire toolkit. Like, you've got the Frozen Sigil, which allows you to Roshan really early. You've got Snowball, which, what else do you really, if you've been playing pubs in the last, like, year, you know what, you pretty much know what Tusk can do and the type of damage output that he can provide you, especially just as an under-leveled support. It doesn't even matter because he's pretty much got like 3 seconds of lockdown in between his punch and the snowball. The save potential as well of the snowball. Like, there's just so many things that make this hero incredibly good in this patch right now.
Dazzle and Phantom Lancer both being banned away by MVP Phoenix. Those two heroes have obviously already made an appearance in this best of 3 series, while Vega Squadron are actually going to take out the Ember Spirit themselves this time around. Why do you think that is? They already have a decent grouping mechanism with Winter's Curse, and there's the obvious with Wisp combination that means at least 2 heroes are going to be grouped up. Why is Ember Spirit banned out this time by Vega?
I think Vega actually was trying to angle to get the Phantom Lancer, and that's why.
Okay.
Because if you take the Phantom Lancer and Leshrac, Gyro, and we've talked about it before, it's like Leshrac, Gyro, and Shaker are the heroes that are commonly used against that hero. You take it out immediately, then what is there really left that... And we saw what happened in the first game, right? When there was no counter to the Phantom Lancer. Right. Like, he could have almost had any 4 heroes around him, and the Phantom Lancer would have just solo carried that game.
Yeah, and Phantom Lancer is actually incredibly good versus Wisp combinations, again, because he's good versus Bristleback for burning away all of his mana, and he also has both the Doppelgang as well as Phantom Rush to go straight for the Wisp during these fights. So I really like that ban out from MVP Phoenix. Vega Squadron took a little bit more time with their last ban, and turns out to be Lina, and Vega Squadron are now going to go for the Slaughter. The SF is still in the pool. This is looking to be that minus armor combination.
This is so much team fight being put out by Vega right now. You've got so much lockdown. Slaughter is one of the better heroes against both IO and Bristleback because you can pretty much just put your amplified damage on the IO, who naturally has terrible armor.
Right.
Like, he's going to build for an Urn most likely. He's got like 800 HP if he probably has to go for Tranquil Boost this game, because the Slaughter with the amplified damage, you put it on a IO that is negative like 13 armor after the results of it, you're just going to die so quickly. So I think Slaughter is a pretty value pickup here because he works well against the Bristle too, who naturally builds into armor.
And so finally Bristleback actually becomes a hero that's susceptible to right-click damage, whereas usually he's impervious for most of the game. And then just, I would say the small little add-on factor would be the Wisp also can't rely on Glimmercape because of the fact that
yes.
that amplified damage is going to be placed on him, so that's not really an option. MVP Phoenix, actually, a really interesting turn of events. Go for what I feel is the block pick, but Vega Squadron, maybe they didn't have the SF in mind. They almost instantly pick Wind Ranger.
Yeah, I think this is actually the old Alliance strategy that we saw in the past. You pick Slaughter for Loda, you pick Pycat Wind Ranger, and now you've got a hero that isn't really a carry. Like, you don't have to all in on the Slaughter.
Right.
Instead, the Wind Ranger can be your pure one position. The only difference is that she's going to play from the mid lane. Wind Ranger is a hero that does pretty well against the Shadow Fiend. And then on top of that, like, it pairs well with the Slaughter. Like, you're going to take down that SF regardless of whether or not he has a BKB, just because you put the amplified damage, it goes to the BKB, then you focus fire and he dies incredibly quickly. And if he tries to channel the ultimate, then the Winter's Curse is there as well. Like, you've got a lot of options to deal with it. But MVP Phoenix, in response to potentially the onslaught that Vega have, pick up the Earthshaker.
I like this pickup because it's a nice counter initiator to what is very clearly going to be a lot of aggression out from Vega Squadron. I mean, no one's running, if you pick up a Slaughter, no one's running it as a hard farmer, right? Everyone tries to be really aggressive with it. You either go straight Blink Dagger or Vanguard Blink Dagger. I think Vanguard might be the item here for the Slaughter, solely because he's already got the initiation from the Tusk, which, again, there's a serious amount of synergy between those two heroes. Snowballing both the Tusk and the Slaughter into one hero, you hit the snowball, you have the instant follow-up stun of Slithering Crush and then Walrus Punch. I mean, that's a lot of single target focus as well as a lot of lockdown, but that also leaves them very susceptible to the Earthshaker's AoE as they're going to be clumped up like that.
Yeah, so there's one more ban out for MVP Phoenix. I think, okay, I was going to say they'll get rid of the Dark Sphere because they had so much troubles with that in the first game. Like, that combination of the Vacuum plus the Winter's Curse was just way too much for them to handle. I think that's a fine ban. I think in response, though, you take maybe even the Clockwork again, because we saw it have so much success in the last game. Like, he struggled in the laning phase, but apart from that, like, Mag played really well that entire game.
Yeah, and he's quite strong versus Bristleback, with the Cogs pushback being, you know, quite nice for him going mid to late game. And then he's obviously very good versus Earthshaker and is potentially strong versus the Shadow Fiend. It all kind of depends on what kind of farm you have as the Clockwork around that 15-minute mark and whether or not you can challenge the SF and go for that trade-off.
I'd like to see Phoenix. I wanted to see it in the last game. I think there'd be some irony there. You know, you slay Phoenix with Phoenix. It's a good hero against the Shadow Fiend at the same time, and it's hard for Io and Earthshaker especially to help out in killing the egg.
That being said, you if you pick up the Phoenix, you do have two BKB right clickers. So both the SF and the Bristleback can both have, you know, BKB and focus down the egg.
You don't want to use that though. Like that, you don't want to. I don't think, especially for a Shadow Fiend, that used to be the counter. Is like you pick a Shadow Fiend, you pick a Phoenix against them because you don't want to use the BKB timer to simply right click down the egg. Like, I think it's a little bit inefficient. And at the same time, because it does stun through BKB, it's not even like you need an egg in the middle. You just have to get somewhat close to reset the fight, essentially.
Fair enough. Vega Squadron coming right down to the wire are going to go for the Undying instead. So we're going to see the Tusk Undying combination. Winter Wyvern babysitting the Slardar. This does mean we're going to be seeing an aggro dual lane. Is that right, Blitz? Or is it something different? Is it an aggro tri-lane? Is it just a solo off-lane Tusk?
Tusk Undying is really good. I think that you can go for the dual lanes. The problem is I don't know how well Slardar plus Winter Wyvern is going to do against a Bristleback IO combination, because we saw how powerful that dual lane was to begin with. And it's not like Slardar has the best potential for kills. Like, he needs at least level 3 to be able to do anything, and as long as Fevy's in a good position, he should be fine. But the last cup for MVP Phoenix, and KP is going to be playing that hero, and this is a little bit of a strange pickup because typically we've seen throughout the entire day MVP Phoenix like to pick heroes that win them the laning phase. It's like the opposite of that.
Omni Knight is much more focused on the mid to late game power that he brings to team fights. I feel like the strongest he is in the laning phase is in a dual lane situation, which in this case, does this mean like it's an Omni Knight Earthshaker duel from them with a Bristleback Wisp on the other side of the map?
I think you still rotate the Earthshaker around like Warnuts did last game. Like, put pressure on the mid lane, and then just hope that KT gets anything, because the strength of their lineup last game was that they couldn't put a hero one-on-one against the Razor, right? Like if you send your carry down there, then it's an Ember against a Razor. Like,
right.
In what world do you want that to happen? Or on the other side, it's a Razor against a Clockwork. But in this scenario, it's more just, I think this is in response to the Winter's Curse. Like it almost certainly is.
Yeah. So being able to essentially counter it out by both giving out the Purification, but probably more importantly the Guardian Angel.
Yeah, exactly.
And also I would say that the Repel is going to be quite powerful when you're putting on either the SF and the Bristleback. I mean, both of these carries are already known to be quite powerful on their own. When they get that kind of upgrade of free magic immunity or the Wisp, tether and overcharge combination, they actually become almost impossible to kill in some situations. So MVP Phoenix versus Vega Squadron, game number 3 is now here. Both of these teams fighting for the opportunity to be able to get into the international main event. The winner of this game 3 will move on. The loser will unfortunately have to go home. Vega Squadron are centering themselves up already to try and go for that top rune, while MVP Phoenix looks like they're going to go for the bottom bounding rune. Perhaps a straight trade-off, though. Vega Squadron wouldn't put it past them to try and challenge with a Tusk Undying.
Yeah, in this one they opt to go for the off duel again, because you were just talking about that, right? You're like, can they go for the dual lanes? Yes, they can in this type of scenario, because we talked about it before. I mean, the strength of the dual lane is so good that you can't really go into it, but KP might run into trouble here.
He didn't expect this one. I thought they saw the Undying and assumed that there was going to be more heroes at bottom lane, but Vega actually split themselves up. KP managed to live a bit longer, and they do manage to get out. MVP Phoenix will try and get a bit of a response there with the Fissure. Nice block out from the Ice Shards, but doesn't look like they're going to be able to do anything. Still, Vega Squadron with that setup, though, the split between the Undying Tuscan one and the 3 other heroes at top, they managed to get both the bounty runes there.
What's interesting about that is I actually think that MVP could have gone the first blood, but they would have given up KP. Or they wouldn't have gotten first blood, but they would have solo killed the Wind Ranger, but they would have lost KP at the same time, because he opts to go for the Fissure onto the Slar Dart instead of the Wind Ranger who went for the Shackle Shot. So that was an opportunity, but I think it was the correct choice by them, because giving up the first blood was probably more important. Right. At the same time, the mid matchup is the one that I look out for the most, because we saw Kyo struggle last game, right? And Kyo is a player that, for me, is really emotional.
He needs some help here in this top lane. Pasha, the last right click, he does get the first blood. KP, they thought they could actually fight that one, but unfortunately, just as you said, the Wisp just doesn't have naturally good armor, so when it comes down to it, the Slithering Crush and right click is enough to quickly overwhelm the Wisp's HP, even with that Omni Knight heal.
Oh, and then this bottom lane right now, March is going all in to try to get the kill on Mag. He does have one more decay available. This might be enough for him to kill him, and he does. He might even pick up the double, and he does on Febby. As Mag, a rotation from the Wisp comes down, but that's just a free kill for him.
A terrible start for MVP Phoenix. This Vega Squadron now winning both their top and bottom lanes, and Mag, now with that kind of advantage, getting 2 different kills, is about to pick up his level 4. There's no way MVP Phoenix could possibly challenge that Undying again.
Yeah, and right now, the Tusk is going all in right now for Kyo. He's trying to set up for this.
Nice, he got the snowball. The power shot's gonna miss, though. Oh no, now the body blocking is out from Warnuts. And that should mean that they're gonna survive the punch. The little punchling, run away. Sam of the Slayer trying to go for that one. Now the right clicks are gonna be there. Sam of the Slayer is gonna go down. He gets the courier in the very end, though. So at the very least, you could say he got a trade-off. The stun goes out, Fissure onto no one, but Kiwa was not ready for that last Shadow Race.
I actually think there was no reason for them to lose that courier, because they could have sent it, continued to send it down, and they might have been able to get the kill, but Febby right now is just being killed by the Roshan. He's like, I have to go back for my bottle. This doesn't really matter. So a good return by them, but at the same time, even that came at a cost.
Where does he go? Does he go to the bottom lane for March because Mag is so big at this point that March is going to need the extra help?
I just realized, like, when you said that, I was like, Mag can't be that big. And then I noticed that he has a magic stick and arcane boots at 2 minutes.
Yeah, so it's pretty bad. He's going to be spamming out decays constantly, and there's not much March can really do about it.
Yeah, I think you actually have to send Febby down here, but it's just an awkward position. Like, Febby probably just stacks Ancients, and that's kind of how he's going to get March back into the game right now, because this lane has already not worked out. And at the same time, MVP, a team that relies so heavily on winning the laning phase, is losing pretty much both their safe and their off lane.
Warnuts Seems like he's going to try and bounce over to that middle lane once again. But this is coming in a series. Caught his bottom lane. They're actually trying to fight this one out, but March is stuck inside the trees. He's going to go down to the inevitable right clicks of Sam the Slayer and the tombstone laid out. Well played by the duo of both Mag and Sam the Slayer. Meanwhile, middle lane, looks like they're trying to set up. Power shot or shackle shot gets laid out on a QO. He's actually dropping quite low. Fisher is there to be able to defend him. No one's still looking for that power shot, but they can't quite get close enough. I think they needed another right click out from Arctic Burn from a Solo, who's now going to be forced to use it up against Warnuts, chasing him away as quick as possible. Solo's now got to get out, though, because both Febby and QO are here, and Warnuts, he just needs one more mana point. He will be able to have a Fisher with the stun and double raises. They can actually easily get this kill. Raise one, raise two. No, Solo's actually still alive, and Pasha is now here to be able to defend, making sure his support does get away.
Yeah, and everybody from MVP not able to get the kill on that, and meanwhile, no one does pick up this regen rune, and it looks like he wants to make a attempt for March right now. He doesn't know that this is coming, and I think he's going to wait for the creep wave to line up the shackle shot, or does he just walk back mid? It's probably the safer option, actually, for him.
Yeah, at this point, deciding that he's not going to be able to get that successful gank at bottom lane, so continuing to try and put pressure on mid. QO is doing okay. Take a look at some of the CS. He's sitting 18-1 compared to the 21-3 of the Wind Ranger. Still, though, it's all a Vega Squadron. Oh, nice shackle shot there. No one's going to run forward and just put some damage on QO. No real threat of a kill, but no one's just making sure there's constant pressure on this Shadow Fiend.
The problem right now, though, is that once Pasha gets his Blink Dagger, there's not a whole lot that MVP is going to be able to do to lock him down. Because if you do notice that there is a conspicuous amount of disables, because if you opt to go for both an Omni Knight and a Wisp, you're just lacking in disables overall. Because what should be an initiating hero isn't. And so I think fights are going to be awkward for MVP because they're going to have to spend so much time chasing people down. And so the laning phase was definitely meant to go better, but especially with that first blood at top and that free giveaway to Mag at bottom, things have really kind of turned bad for them right now.
Yeah, it seems like MVP Phoenix, looking at this lineup, just looking to outlast, essentially, Vega Squadron. Despite having lack of disables and everything else, they have just tanky heroes with a lot of heal. But obviously, with the laning phase disadvantage, they could easily be losing the mid game here. Sam the Slayer dropping quite low. Magic Wand's up and throws out the Ice Shards. He's just trying to stay away from QO, who now gets repelled up. Sam the Slayer will be able to TP out, and MVP Phoenix, another rotation that just doesn't quite work out.
And that's the downside of having so few disables, is that Sam the Slayer can just walk away. There's no real response. The Shadow Fiend rotates in for a kill, unable to do so, and he's just going to have to TP back to this mid lane. But that's just more time that you're wasting, and you're giving no one even more of an advantage right now, who's already doing quite a good job, despite the fact that there was kind of a dual lane against him mid.
QO will be the one to grab that Invis rune at bottom lane. No one is racking up that CS. And especially, we talked about the synergy in the drafting phase between him and the Slardar. If this Wind Ranger actually has a good game, gets a decent amount of damage, the single target is going to be insane. The heal is there from MVP Phoenix, but you just got to question if it's going to be there in time with the burst damage potentially available for Vega Squadron just to be able to take out a serious core before the heals are out. Febby actually gets jump over there. Sam the Slayer trying to get the snowball over to QO in order to dodge some of this damage, but he realizes he is very, very dead, especially with March now coming over. March actually has the early level of Viscous-enabled Goo, which is going to be able to slow down no one, and they actually may be able to get this kill. Quick TP out, Wind Ranger sprays and gets it. Nice play from QO.
Oh, that was such a good rotation down from MVP, forcing everybody down. I mean, March being able to sandwich that Wind Ranger. She doesn't actually have too much armor if you take a look at her. She's only got 3. So that early level of the Viscous Nasal Goo going to complete work on her. And I mean, MVP showing signs of life once again, but this bottom lane and this top lane is still something they have to eventually deal with right now.
Looks like they've got some stacks here. QO goes back to farm up just a double. The medium camp is also stacked up as well. The advantages of having a Wisp. He farmed up, stacked up both the Ancients as well as a little bit of the neutrals for QO. So that's going to be one of the ways that MVP Phoenix do kind of get their cores back into a decent position against Vega Squadron, who are obviously much farther ahead when it comes to CS.
Yeah, they are catching up, though, by virtue of just playing passively, waiting for opportunities to come to them. Like, they're getting stacks off. Febby continues to do the smart thing, and he just continues to stack this Ancient Camp for March, and this is going to be March's way back into the game. And they know that this Tusk is down here, but can they actually kill him? That's a different story. Is beautiful ice shards laid out by him.
Yeah, that's actually March can't quite sneak through. Unfortunately, he's just got a little bit too much weight on him. QO locked in by the shackle shot. No one does pop the wind run in order to try and run him down, but Shadow Fiend is going to be able to get away thanks to his bottle. So again, kind of we saw a lot of early action here, but it seems like we're going to stall out with a little bit of a passive laning phase. What's really the plan here? I feel like Vega Squadron are definitely the ones who have to be the aggressors, but when is their time? Is it the Blink Dagger on Pasha first, or do you wait for Vanguard then Blink? Or maybe you just go much earlier and focus on the fact that Mag has a ton of farm?
You just need a few levels more than anything. Like you need levels on your Winter Wyvern. He has to get the level 6 for you to really get into a dominant fight. It's probably less important for the Tusk to get levels, but you definitely need the level 6 on solo, and you probably need the Blink Dagger just to open up, as the Tusk is going to lay down that Ice Shards, but this is just to annoy him as Febby is able to sneak by. And
yeah, they'll still get that good use of the courier there to be able to get the vision. Febby is going to be gone on, but he's got to tether up in a second. He needs to be able to use it now. The snowball's actually going to put Zayo and Slayer in a bad position. Warnuts is here, looking for that Fisher block out. Sure enough, the Tusk will lose his TP. March is here at the same time, focusing down that Tombstone in order to make sure his allies can safely go for the Tusk. So it actually turns out to be a double win there. They not only get the kill, the bounty on the Tombstone, as well as the kill on the Tusk. Once again, MVP Phoenixes, their very passive approach to laning phase and willing to rotate multiple heroes to one lane does seem to be paying out big dividends.
Oh, definitely, and this passive style is really helping them because you're noticing in the mid lane, the Shadow Fiend, just by virtue of doing the stacks repeatedly, has completely caught up to this Wind Ranger right now, who hasn't had the best time. She's trying to rotate in for a gank, but unable to do so, and her item progression and farm progression have kind of slowed down compared to QO, who just continues to farm out the lane. He's got 800 gold on top of more farm in general on that Wind Ranger, and he's got more stacks to go back on it, so they have to be a little bit concerned about this right now.
But perhaps he's a bit too far out. He does have a double damage, but no one, of course, has that win run. Double raise gets laid out onto him. Power shot not up for another 3 seconds. A third raise still hits no one, and Solo's actually in some trouble, but a cold embrace has baited QO perhaps into a bad position. The power shot hits him once again. Solo drops one more hit. He managed to get it from the snowballs coming in. QO, nice shots missed. QO's going to be able to get out. No, the power shot. The sniper himself lands it, and Vega Squadron do manage to secure a 1-for-1 trade-off for that SF. They'll be happy with that, but it almost looks like they want a little bit more.
Yeah, they wanted to try to get a little bit more out of that Tombstone, but unable to do so. That could have been really bad for them because that would have been another kill for QO that was relatively untraded and no one with that fantastic power shot. And this is going to bring him back into the game because this should mean his point booster at the same time, and you slow down QO. So no one who was kind of having a little bit of a rough game, he was actually like 1,000 gold behind the Shadow Fiend, and now you're seeing the net worth just completely even up.
March is going to have a pretty early mech here to match the Undying, who I thought that Mag was going to have such an early mech that they were going to have like a 5-minute period where they had a mech advantage over MVP Phoenix, which means they like just 5-man into tier 1 towers. But it seems like with the way that this laning phase is kind of getting upset due to the multiple rotations from MVP Phoenix, they're actually going to be on an even ground, at least in that one factor. Of course, Undying is still a much stronger hero when it comes to team fights by that 15-minute mark.
The problem for MVP, though, is that QO needs more net worth than this, because even if he is ahead of the Wind Ranger, SF is a hero that thrives on being even further ahead than he currently is. Like, you typically want to see your SF almost like half an item in lead over everybody else just because he needs it. And this top lane, QO is going to set up for the invis, KP goes for the heal, they're going to set up for this, and this would be a huge kill for them to get. The Fissure is going to follow as well.
Nice ultimate. Pasha hits one raise, but is actually now trying to spread himself out, and they don't have the disables to be able to stop him. He might just be able to make a TP away. Pasha, another raise. This one actually doesn't hit. Hits the stun, though. In the end, he is not able to make himself out. MVP Phoenix are successful in their 3-man rotation. Vega Squadron are going for a push at the bottom tier 1 tower, but we already have March and Febby ready to defend.
MVP have done such a good job of battling back into this game. You saw them at a pretty significant disadvantage in the early game, but this laning phase, they've stabilized, they're starting to get ganks off. Kyo with a good rotation at top, being able to nail that Slaughter before he gets his blink dagger. Like, the Slaughter was dangerously close to it. Like, he actually looked like he wanted to just opt to skip the Vanguard and go for it, but 3-man TP at this top lane and not going to be able to take that tower down.
Yeah, but that's fine for MVP Phoenix, right? Oh, Warnuts, he's okay. Thought he was going to drop low enough that a power shot might finish him off, but he's good. MVP Phoenix at least forced a lot of rotations out from Vega Squadron. Now the pressure is on Vega Squadron to make use of those rotations to take this tier 1 tower, but if MVP want to, they have two options. They can try and play defense here, or they could just go for the split push, such as at bottom lane where QO's already beating down that tier 1 tower.
I think you just go for the split push. Now you're starting to see him finally get a gradual lead, because you don't want to see Mag at the top of your net worth chart right now. If you're Vega, like, that's the one downside, is that yes, Mag had a great game so far, and you're happy to see that, but at the same time, you kind of wish that was on your Wind Ranger or your Slaughter. Like, you definitely don't want to see a hero like Undying at the top of the net worth chart, because you just can't utilize it that much. Like, yeah, you've got a mech, but at the same time, what are you really going to build into that'll change the game? And so, for MVP right now, they're not even going to lose that top tower. So, a free solo push tower right now for QO. And again, MVP, they're starting to gradually bring the game back to even.
Well, they didn't in the beginning, but they may now. No one's actually going to hit a shackle shot. Bevy is sitting on the side, though, ready to go with the relocate out. So as they focus all their damage on March, they will be sadly disappointed as the relocate save is there. But this still does mean that Vega Squadron are well set up to take control of this tier 1 tower, and MVP Phoenix will not be able to bring a retort.
Yeah, they're going to drag everybody over here, but even Kyo is heading up there with a Yasha, actually. I think this might even be an SMY just for the pure stats, because I think he correctly ascertained that getting the Blink or that BKB won't do too much, but Kyo dropping quite low here.
There are Shakers coming in from the side. They do have the Fisher as well as the Wiz, so there was a lot of turnaround potential for MVP Phoenix. It's good that Pasha decided to back down from that attempt. So the early Blink Daggers picked up by the Slaughter doesn't go for the Vanguard first. The Slaughter generally as a hero is someone who just cannot keep up with most carries, particularly carries like SF, who are so proficient at farming. So Vega Squadron, it feels like the impetus is on them. They have to force fights, and they have to start utilizing this Blink Dagger in order to get some kills.
Yeah, it's almost as if they haven't been able to utilize the early lead that they have, and I think they got a little bit too comfortable with the scenario that they're in, because Mag was having such a good game. But it's not really translating into too much, as Q is going to go for the SMY. I think this is a really good pickup, because if he goes to the BKB, like I said, remember I was like, there's just so much that can counter him. The Yules doesn't do too much for you. You've got a mech on March, so going for this SMY into something like a BKB is probably the correct option.
So a more stat-focused build. The tier 2 tower, I mean, they already gave up the tier 1 for free. There's no way they can give up the tier 2 for free as well. And that's why Vega Squadron start trying to chase down MVP Phoenix. But a good Fisher block means that there's no hope. The Tosco is unable to get his snowball, and MVP Phoenix will make a clean escape.
Yeah, they're just going to get the hell out of there, because there's no reason for them to have to overextend. They've actually done a pretty good job of building up a decent lead right now, as they've done a lot of pressure on various sides of the map right now. And they've taken 2 of the tier 1s, and it looks like actually Vega want to get aggressive on this map. Like, they've shown the Blink Dagger, you have to do something with this. This is the downside of having a Slaughter on your team, because once he has that Blink Dagger, he has to get something, or he just gradually starts to fall behind.
MVP start going for the Wind Ranger. 2 of Vega Squadron coming from the side. Tombstone already being laid out. Immediately MVP try and stop it, but there goes to go the Winter's Curse. Snowball actually locking down QO with Walrus Punch on top of that with the repel, though. They're not able to stop that one. Big Echo Slam comes out for Warnuts in order to stop the Slaughter. They take out the Tombstone as well.
Relocate
and now they're relocated. They're going to be able to get saved with the Slayer as well. They're run him down quite easily. Mag's going to fall as well. It seems like this is going to be a 3-man cleanup for MVP Phoenix. If they could just finally catch the Undying. QO trying to chase him down. Actually gives up on that one. It's going to run to no one instead, but of course he's got the win run to get himself away. So just 2, the Slaughter and the Tusk fall, but MVP Phoenix with the numbers advantage and already near the Roshan pit might as well go for the Aegis now.
Yeah, going for the Roshan is the correct play here. Going for that mid tower isn't enough of what they just got, because right now Vega can't really respond to this. They've lost their bottom tier 1 tower. The mid lane is a little bit too far away from this, and MVP, I mean, they're really starting to take a lead here. As this is going to be a free Aegis uncontested. People from Vega are starting to rotate over, but it's way too late, and now you're seeing the power of the Omni. Like, KP is 0-0-1, but he's played this beautifully. He didn't get zoned out completely in that top lane. He was able to get some measure of farm and levels, and now you're seeing the lineup kind of pay off as, yeah, March had a really terrible start, but look at what they did to get him back in the game. They just consistently started to stack the Ancients, and they're still doing it in this game right now.
And they don't really have a good defusal here. In order to stop these repels or guardian angels, I think their best target for a defusal would probably be the Wind Ranger, but I'm sure she just doesn't really want to go that in normal circumstances.
You don't want to go for it as a first 2 item. You want to go for the Aghanim Scepter, but he might have to at this rate. And probably more troubling for me is that Pasha had such a good early game, but he hasn't been able to turn that into anything. He has the Blink Dagger and a Ring of Health, but even getting a Vanguard at this point doesn't really change too much for him at this point. Like, he has to get further ahead than he is right now, and he's even going to be chased down by March.
Yeah, he's losing this man fight quite badly. Now that it's 2 versus 1, Pasha has to get out. Febby and March are not going to be able to pursue. The rest of MVP are also trying to chase down multiple heroes. Looks like our Tusk is going to stay 1 step ahead of QO, so they're fine, but MVP Phoenix are still in enough control. And that's a big problem for Vega Squadron, who are the ones who have to force some sort of fights, but they're always just running away from them.
I think Vega, what they have to do is, I don't even know if you can fight in the Aegis Timer. Like, that's the thing, is that Mag, yeah, he's got the mech, but once again, the Tombstone's effectiveness is going to really wear out here. They do have a lot of ways to deal with the Tombstone right now. Like, there's not a whole lot that deters them, and if your Slaughter isn't getting the amount of farm that you want, you are going to start to fall behind. I think if you're Vega, you have to try to defend out your towers and wait for MVP to overextend and just try to get the winner's curse of your life off.
You thought these heroes were hard to kill before. March is about to finish up a Crimson Guard. Vega Squadron, no man, a response soon. It just seems like MVP are never going to die. They've already taken that tier 1 tower, and it seems like they're sort of fearless. They're just going to keep on going, and why not? March can sit on the front lines. He's got the mech. He's super tanky, and then Febby has a repel on him, so he's pretty much guaranteed. In fact, he is guaranteed. No, there's Winter's Curse. That could stop a relocate out, but that's it. That's the only stun that they have that could go through Magic Needle.
Yeah, March is dipping quite low, but he gets healed up. He still has mech available to him. Doesn't want to pop it too early, and they're just going to take this tier 2 tower down because they know that Vega don't want to fight into this type of position because it's so close to their base that if Vega loses this fight like 5-0 or something like that, that could beat a Rax in 20 minutes. So they're not going to overcommit for this defense. But at the same time, it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't defend it, you're losing a tier 2 for free against a team that heavily relies on getting to the late game safely. But if you don't do anything about it at the same time, or if you do something about it and you lose the fight, then that could potentially just mean Rax for you at 20 minutes. And that's not really a recoverable position with the type of heroes that Vega have.
Yeah, typically, like, forcing fights, forcing 5 versus 5, just kind of speed up the game, right? So if you lose the fight, you're just speeding up, essentially, MVP getting into the late game. But at the same time, they're not able to split push very effectively. Like, we saw Pasha up there in the top lane. He was trying to get a counter with the tier 2 tower going down in the top lane, but it's still quite healthy, just slightly below 50% HP. So MVP are getting farther and farther ahead on the 2 most important core heroes, and that's all they need. They really only need farm on those 2 because heroes like the Wisp and Omni Knight are perfectly powerful with just their abilities, don't necessarily need too many items.
At the same time, I think Vega is playing it relatively well considering the circumstances. Like, the Wind Ranger continues to split up the map, go for the farm. Pasha's trying to catch up and farm at the same time. And I think this is the correct response. Like, don't overcommit to defend the tower, like I said, because that opportunity or window has already passed. The better thing to do is wait for what happened in game number 2, I think, where you just try to
QO, he's going to go for blowing up Solo. There goes the Cold Embrace, but I don't think Solo's going to get out of here. In fact, sure enough, the Purification is what finishes him off inside that Cold Embrace. Middle lane looks like Pasha tried to go for War Nuts, but he's got backup now and isn't afraid of the fish no more.
Yeah, they're just looking for whatever opportunities they can find, and I think this is the smart decision by Pasha. He goes for the Ring of Health, but now he's going to go into that Mithril Hammer. I don't think that should be a Deso. I think he actually has to go for the BKB. But I think it's right. Like, he could go for the Deso, I guess, just for the extra benefit of dealing damage. But I think it's a little bit too... he's not going to be tanky enough.
Right. He just could be potentially blown up by the SF, and the Earthshaker disables from long range are going to be big problems as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Vega Squadron, I think they know that the Aegis is going to fade. Like, every team does this. Aegis is about to fade, you smoke up, look for the fight, because you think that MVP is going to be a little bit too overconfident. But Vega, this is the big fight for them, because they have to win this team fight. Like, there's no way they can give up this amount of towers and lose this fight.
Vega Squadron coming in for the side, Solo looking for that Winter's Curse, and will lay it down to defend with the power shot on top of that.
Oh, he misses the Guardian Angel!
Get that kill, and the Guardian Angel not really effective here. Warnout's in the background, also going to go down to Vega Squadron. It seems like they found the fight they needed. QO desperately looking to be able to lock down on someone with his Scotty. Goes for Pasha, but is unable to get him. Now Solo kind of baited out with the Cold Embrace, but he will go down eventually. The rest of Vega Squadron start mounting a response, but the Shackle shot doesn't latch, and that means now Maga's life is going to be forfeit as well. It goes from 2 pickoffs easily to then being forced to trade 2 heroes of their own. Vega Squadron, I thought that was going to be a good fight with the way they initiated that one, but it turns out it's just too big.
It was about as good of an idea as you were going to get, though, right? Like, there was no Aegis. You can't just keep giving up tower after tower. But I just realized how farmed QO is. Like, he's gone for this pure stats build. He opts to go for the Eye of Scotty instead of something like a BKB, and he just hits so hard, and he doesn't die anymore. Like, KP was late with that Guardian Angel, and they still won the fight. Like, that was an ideal fight for Vega, and it still doesn't go in their favor. And so they have to just go for the next fight. Like, you just have to continue to play this out, hope that you can maybe initiate on KP, and hope that you can just outlast MVP. Yeah, because even though QO's got this build, like, you can still outkite him.
Yeah, it kind of seems like Vega Squadron have to almost sit back and farm up some more, even. With the Wind Ranger just not doing nearly enough damage to threaten anybody yet. You get a little bit more damage on him, and that focus fire plus the amplified damage may be enough to cut through one of these big tanky heroes like the Bristleback or the SF. But as I say, that MVP Phoenix are still taking advantage of the clear control that they have over this game by pushing down more towers and getting more of a net worth lead, and it seems like a free hero as well. Mag is going to be stuck here from the side. Vega Squadron actually going to try and mount a response, going straight for the Omni Knight. They do manage to take him out. 1-for-1 trade-off so far. Solo's going to be the next target. Winter's Curse onto Febby. They pop him, but so too does the Winter Wyvern fall.
Yeah, of course, from MVP, like you said, they're just not falling right now. Like, there's just not enough damage coming on, and there's... Look at that, that's a focus fire with amplified damage, and they still don't do enough. Yeah, between the passive of Bristleback as well as just the natural tankiness of the hero. He's got Crimson Guard, he's got Plate Mail. I mean, Crimson Guard, Vanguard alone is just a really great way to be able to deal with the Wind Ranger's focus fire, right? Because it's right now, it's small instances of damage, you know, rapidly being forced, which means Vanguard's RNG is going to be pretty good versus that. When you actually proc a Crimson Guard block against that, it's blocking a good 1/3 of the damage. Oh, you're completely right on that too. I agree. I like that reasoning. That's like an easy way to think about it that I like just... You did a better job of explaining that. What do you even need me for, Cap?
I always need you, Blitz. Wind Ranger, I feel like they still need that Desolator.
I don't know about...
But who gets it? Is it the Slardar now as his next item? Or does Wind Ranger go for like a Desolator of his own? Because I feel like they're just not cutting down the heroes to size, and they need that kind of cheap damage item available. Maybe
Deso is a decent choice, but I'm starting to think that they need at least one person to carry around the Diffusal, but I don't even know if that'll get to that point, because I think this next Roche fight is going to be the determining factor, because all of the tier 2 towers are down. MVP, that top tower is getting somewhat low, and so this next Roche fight should kind of determine whether they can go high ground or not. So I think if you're Vega, you have to get into a smoke and just go for it. You can't let MVP just get an Aegis onto March or QO and let them march down the lane. Right. Because QO's just getting so farmed right now. Like, he's almost got a full MKB on top of that. And so I think if you're MVP, you go for the Roshan. I think if you're Vega... Oh, they're actually going to sneak it for themselves, and can they get down here in time?
That is insane timing. They just smoked up to the Roshan pit. You can literally just respawn. They get an Ice Shark to try and block out the rest of MVP Phoenix.
March committed for this.
He is fearless. He's going to try and intercept this one. The Aegis is grabbed by the Wind Ranger. They managed to secure it and take down Febby at the same time. The Tombstone is a great position, but here comes Big Daddy QO. He lets loose the ultimate. Vega Squadron's already so low from dealing with March that they're all going to fall inside this Roshan pit if they're not careful.
There's so many zombies.
Managed to get 3 different stuns, and the Tombstone is still going going to work. You know what? It's still fighting up against both QO and March. Echo Slam gets laid out, finishes off the Wind Ranger. Mag is stuck in the corner with his tombstone still going to work, but MVP, they're just not dying. They don't care about the tombstone. These small sources of damage are nothing to them. Mag making the TP out doesn't quite get away. Our Winter Wyvern escapes, and so too does the Slardar, but in the end, despite the fact that Vega Squadron, in a way, had the success of managing to get Roshan and grab the Aegis, still lose the fight due to a drastic lead on both the SF and the Bristleback. They're just too big.
That was about as good of a fight as you were going to get, Austin. Like, that was, you had the Tombstone on the high ground, you had the Aegis. There was like 300 zombies. It was an episode of Walking Dead, but they still weren't able to win that fight. And then on top of that, I mean, Kyo just walks away with full HP. He's going to have a fully completed MKB. And Vega, what a smart maneuver by them. They're just balls to the walls. They're saying, okay, we're not going to just go down. Like, we're going to at least try to attempt something, but the farm lead on both those cores, like you said, just to reiterate, it's just too hard to kill them right now.
Yeah, they still don't have the Winter's Curse for another 30 seconds, so they don't really have a good way to be able to address Febby or that Omni Knight. They're going to be forced into something here. No one coming in from the side, start focusing down QO. You can see the synergy there between the Amplify damage and Focus Fire doing a good amount of work, though March is still a big problem to deal with. Mag is actually gets cold and braced up. The Tombstone is laid out, but it's instantly taken out by QO. And now Mag forced to use the Ghost Scepter on himself, but it seems like he's not getting out of here alive. Pasha gets a really good stun, but it just doesn't change the fact that Mag is still dead. Another great Shackle shot, but now no one's going to be forced away. There goes the Winter's Curse laid out on the Febby. They will be able to finish him off and bring a couple of supports low, but the cores are still healthy as they've always been. Solo is now going to be the next target of March as he just keeps on marching forward. Solo now going to be susceptible to that QO ultimate and a couple more right clicks. Clever Cave manages to keep him alive, but it still doesn't change the fact that the melee racks is down and MVP will make a clean escape.
What a turnaround that QO's had from game 1 to what he is now. Like in game 1, or game 2 actually, we saw him miss multiple Lina stuns. You know, he messed up the combo, it looked like he tilted. But now, 10-1 and 6. Absolute monster in farm right now. Like the fact that he's got all of these items completed, an I Am Scotty, Sanjin Yasha, Monkey King Bar, at just 29 minutes into the game, there's no one on Vega that's even close to that. He almost has double the net worth of the Slardar, and the Slardar, he's a hero that had a pretty significant lead in the early game, and now, I mean, Vega, tournament life on the line, they have to have a better fight than the one they just had.
And Assault Cuirass about to be finished up for our Bristleback. A huge increase of not only damage for the Bristleback, but obviously that armor increase just makes the Slardar more and more useless as time goes on. Slardar's a carry that has to be effective in those first like 20 to 30 minutes, and we're rapidly going into more of a mid to late game factor where Slardar may be dropping in his power level.
Yeah, I think the move for Vega right now is don't just let MVP assault your barracks because it's so hard for them to get into a fight straight up when MVP knows where you all are.
Right.
I think they just have to go for some sort of attempt at this point. Because right now, the surprise factor is all that they really have. Like, if they just let MVP beat around their racks, I think that the game just doesn't go in their favor, especially with how tanky March is. Like, you're starting to rapidly run out of options. But for Vega, I mean, it's so risky because this is their tournament life on the line.
And it's QO is tanky as hell as well. I mean, he's now got the Talisman of Evasion. He's going to be building into the Butterfly. And you can see the Wind Ranger. We talked about all the items that we may need to see for Vega Squadron. One more on the list. That's an MKB for the Wind Ranger. And that's nowhere in sight. So that Evasion is going to be incredibly strong for QO. He may not even care if he's focus fired up and has that amplified damage on him.
So MVP begin their march in this bottom lane. They want to get the second set of racks down at 31 minutes and just put a stamp on this victory as March is the first one up.
They start focusing down that tier 3. Focus fire being laid onto March, but he's very easily being healed by both KP and Febby. And he's still sitting over that 50% mark. Meanwhile, QO runs forward and actually threatens no one. They do have the Winter's Curse. They need to try and chain stun him down. QO gets hit by the snowball, but there goes the response from KP. He gets off a beautiful Guardian Angel, and the toss is already down and out from the counter initiation from Mornuts. He does get shackled up, and Vegard's actually going to be able to pop him real quickly. But Pasha is now fighting up against both Febby and March straight in front of his fountain, and he's losing that fight. No one. He needs the cold embrace to be able to save him, but QO takes that opportunity to let loose another ultimate. No one makes the runaway. Glimmer Cape trying to save him, but this time they will see him with the counterboard. Mag now trying to get back to his fountain as well. Will die to the last MKB strike from QO as well, and they turn their attention to that second lane of racks as MVP seemingly moments away from their victory here in Game 3.
And once again, we see the same 3 heroes living throughout all of the fights. March isn't even touched right now. He's got full everything Kyo's in the same position. KP opting to go for that Vlad and that Blink Dagger. It's just so hard for them to get caught out of position. You saw him blink in this time. Guardian Angel, no response from Vegas. They just can't live anymore.
And now the Mega Creeps is going to be coming in soon. Melee Rax is already down, and just the range Rax that's left. They now focus Pasha as he comes forward, calling Brain Snowball trying to save him, but QO, he says, if you don't want to fight me, that's fine. I'll just take your range Rax and force Megas. And sure enough, there it is. Vega Squadron being forced back to their fountain with Megas on the way. Go ahead and call it. GG, well played. Congratulations, says Solo, as MVP Phoenix. After what was one of the most intense games that we've ever casted in game number 2, managed to take that game and take game 3 very convincingly to be the 16 team going to TI.
And how many games did they have to play just to get to this position? Last year, or the year before against Liquid, they came just short of getting into the main event. Now we see them here. March, who's probably going to retire after this tournament to do his military service, manages to keep his TI hopes alive. But fantastic job by Vega getting as far as they did. Props to them for that second game that they put up. And I mean, there are no real losers here.
And you have to give some serious shout outs to Vega Squadron for putting in the hours. I mean, the last 5 months